Hi guys, let's go over and grab our friends on Twitch here. Everybody, welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. Sorry, the Stratosphere Studio. It is Monday the 16th of February 2026. Hope everybody's been doing well. I have as usual been working my little took us off. I got a couple of interesting things to show, some fun things. Mostly, yeah, sound is working. It's a miracle. It's a miracle every day. It's the little miracles that make life worth living around here. Where'd that other one go? Okay, 1 second. Let's get these things set up here. Oh, I have to, sorry, hang on a second. Let me just turn off that monetization. So I hope everybody's doing well. It's been busy as usual, and there's a lot going on. There's just not enough time in the day, honestly. Turn this commercials off for you guys. Good. Boy, there has been some garbage movies out there, just from what I'm seeing. The Bride and Maggie Gyllenhaal sitting there, or Gyllenhaal, or whatever the hell it is. I don't much care, honestly. Talking about, finally women have if only we had a voice. If only women had a voice in arts and media. They gave her like $100 million for that thing. I think it's shot in IMAX. And Drinker took it apart. Everybody took it apart because it deserved to be taken apart because it's just hot garbage. Almost there. Meanwhile, those of us who are thrashing around are just making do and doing well. Hey, our techie. Still haven't gotten to those emails. I'm sorry. I'm still running around behind. It's been a frosty couple of days. Just working like a crazy man. Yeah, this is the studio. So there you go. Okay, so let's see. I got a couple things to show. Nothing really too earth-shattering, but still kind of fun. Let me see, desktop. Let's see, what do we want to do first? Let's do this first. So I've spent the last 2 or 3 days pretty much nonstop working on a new habitat for CAS-27. You may remember the thing we had before. It was really cool looking. It was square and had an airlock in the front, and I did a bunch of renderings of it. And I was getting ready to start cranking out some actual frames for CAS-27, and I was just looking to find out the source of this hab thing that I had. And it turns out it's from Avatar, which is suboptimal. So I had to do a whole new one, and I did. What did I do? I had to build up a whole new hab and put decals on it and all the rest of it, and I finished it about, I don't know. I finished a couple of test renders about 10 minutes ago. It's always that way. I always go right up until the deadline, because that's just how it is in show business. Everybody in show business has commented on that, how it 6 hours before opening, it just seems like it's going to be very tough to make it. 2 hours before opening, it's absolutely impossible to make it. An hour before opening, they're going to chase us out of the place with pitchforks and hot tar, and then just the second the curtain opens, everything just seems to be in place. I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, I got a couple things. Now this hab is it's a little simpler. It's a little older. It's got some great decals on it, although you won't see that in these tests. So I just ran I don't know, 15 or 20 quick little tests to check on the geometry of things. So there's going to be a lot of stuff in what I'm about to show you that is just some AI hallucinations. I just put a bunch of stuff together. Now this is the habitat. CAS-27 habitat is where they find it's an 80-year abandoned science station. And the main thing, I always want to stress that they're tests, you know. And the main thing about this particular test is, if you're going to do this is new for me, preparing 3D preparing AI assets. It's kind of like doing it in 3D, where you have to build the model and then you texture it. Here, you have to render it from different directions, and you get into Photoshop. You put some decals on there, and then you have to save a multi-panel, you know, reference things. So anyway, it's got some drift, and one of the things that's so frustrating is, as you'll see, I put a big old lever on the door because Jake is going to have to bash that thing open with the back of an axe head, and there's just a giant lever on the door, and I just typed in a prompt, said guy opens the door with the lever, and none of them do. They all just go for this little thing on the side. It's weird. But anyway, I just wanted you guys to have a look at it. So this is without much editing. It's about 3 minutes, and all it is just you know, looking at the HAB geometry and how does it work with Jake and all the rest of that stuff. So again, it's just a HAB. If you start pointing, I should probably have mentioned this a long time ago. When I show you guys these tests, I do it because I want everybody to come along with the process. If this wasn't the house, you know, if this was a paying audience, you wouldn't see any of this stuff. So calling out errors on tests where I'm telling you already, I know there's a lot of errors, probably isn't going to help me too much. I see that there's a lot of stuff here that's not finished yet, and that's why it's a render test. So I'm mostly looking at, is the geometry more or less stable? A lot of times when he opens the door, that's a little funky. But generally speaking, and there are some real hallucinations in here, generally speaking, I'm pretty happy with the dynamics and the, you know, the motion and stuff. So let's just go ahead and roll this. Yeah, I'll just leave the mic on because otherwise I'll forget to turn it back off again. All right, ready? Here we go, and we'll start with YouTube, I guess. Ready? Some of the decals are holding up well. The CAS 27 decal holds up well. The stuff on the side just doesn't.
All right, time to get inside.
So these are multi-shot examples where the computer's doing the cutting. This is more of a stable single shot, but it looks pretty good. And remember, this habitat is, I call this the showroom version. There is no entrance on the other side. That's just false geometry. This is the showroom version. So remember, the one that we're going to use in the show has been out there for 80 years. So it'll be covered with frost, and it'll be rusty. It'll be corroded. This thing is brand new. But you can see on the top, I put attachment points there. So the thing is basically sort of helicoptered, or, you know, flown into a location. It's designed to be out there for 3-4 months, that kind of thing. And, you know, there we go. Doors sometimes open, sometimes doors open, sometimes they don't. But some shots, like this last one of Jake when he's coming in and the sunlight hits him, that just looks really cool. It is an airlock. That is an airlock. That's an extruded airlock, and these things are able to function in a vacuum. This isn't a vacuum, but it's very cold outside. The interior is different every time because I haven't done the interior model yet, but you know, it's getting there. So now we did some with him coming out. He's inspecting the thing. And when he comes out, the scale messes up. It does. Those decals are almost right, but not quite. Look how much smaller it looks when he's coming out, because it's kind of predetermined the scale before he emerges. Something for me to remember. But the cuts are good, the lighting's good. I haven't gotten any of the interiors on this thing done yet. But since we designed it from scratch, I'm overall pretty happy with it. And of things like, the mist, the cold breath is just, just an extra crazy, amazing benefit that you get. I really like the way that sunlight is lighting the scene. There's supposed to be a big decal there on the bottom. It says United States Colonial Administration. Don't know why it didn't show up. We'll get it all sorted out eventually. That's it. Oh, are we? Oh, I think we're done. So let me, hang on a second there, YouTube. So, yeah. And I didn't have any time to refine the prompts, so obviously we can, basically do it. This is, Kirk says this is the way the hab is going to look. Now, right now it looks a little bit too much like an Airstream trailer. It is going to be, we're going to age the hell out of it. But if you want to deal with assets like this, it's always smart to build them new and then age them, because if you go to the trouble of aging them first, you can't unage them. This way, if we ever need it again, we can just add some aging to it. The ones you're going to see, it's been out there for 80 years, including, that'd be probably 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8 cycles of heat and cold. It's going to be completely corroded, and there'll be frost around the windows and all of that stuff. And it will also be, that is the basic configuration. Yes, that's it. So, it'll be all of that. And Chase Smith says the exterior door should always open inward. That way there's no way something can block the door and trap you inside, such as feet of snow. Sounds good on Earth. Right now, the space inside there is so small, the door has to open outward. There's no place to put the door on the inside. And the thing is really tiny, so they're just going to have to risk it. Although it's certainly good advice here on Earth. Yeah, there was a comm antenna that was supposed to be on there. I can fix that in Photoshop. Roadrunner says, I thought the valley where the hab is located would be smaller. This is not the location. Like I said, this is just a motion test. The valley is going to be, it's not even the motion test. I just grabbed that one with, because I like the sunlight and the backlighting. So after all of that, they're kind of modular, Geek. They're not connectable. I thought about it. They're what they are is rapidly transportable and inexpensive. So they just fly them out there, and scientists live in them for 3 months, 6 months, or whatever, and then they pick it up and restock it and send it back out again. So problem is with CAS 27 is that they missed the boat, and nobody went to get out there and resupply them. So there's that. Now, there is, we were talking last Monday about slang and profanity, and I finished the stream, and I was cleaning up, and I was getting ready to just post a right angle, and then just went to YouTube and happened to see something that is the best. It's the best AI I've ever seen. It's just insanely good, and very, very dark, and the it's a Trinity. It's just probably a built-in radio thermal generator, so it's not fusion power. Just be you know, just a real simple nuclear power plant. Okay, so I found this site called a channel called Graffiti Goblin, and I want to hire these guys because not to do everything by any means. When I first saw the stuff that they did, I realized these guys are like the anti-Bill, and their vision of the future is like the anti-Bill future, and they do really, really dystopian stuff. But the thing that I like about them is they gave me kind of a glimpse into a sort of a dark corner of the colonies that I haven't talked about much. I mentioned it a couple times in passing. We talked about the idea that there would be, you know, branches or various, spokes off of these main lines where people just kind of went little nuts. Some places where people go like really heavily into the cyber, places where other people go directly into the genetic modification. There's a lot of cases. We're not going to dump all this backstory everybody in the beginning, but there's also going to be runners, and runners are people who can get in a decent sized spaceship and just go. If they've got enough room to put some hibernation stuff in there, they don't have to travel down these probability lines, these dice lines. They can just set off and go to another planet directly. It may take them 20 years to get there, or 30, but I really like the idea that there are out-of-the-way corners of this universe that are, obviously some of them are Chinese and off-limits for other political reasons, but some of these places, things get really, really, really bad. Really, really bad. And that's why I wanted to hire these guys, because they've got a short out. I didn't download like an 8-minute movie, which is really, really pretty good. And these guys, by the way, are the only AI people I've seen out there that have actual writers. The writers are terrific, and that's why I don't watch most of these AI short films, because it's just, there's no drama there, there's no characters there, but these guys are terrific. So I downloaded 2 of them. The first one I picked. I wish I'd been able to do one more. These would be my dystopia guys, and I would want them to do dystopia, because, to be honest with you, I don't have the brain for this. I can't think like this, and that's why I think it's kind of cool that they're like the anti-Bill, because I just can't think this dark as they are. So I wanted to talk about slang. We were trying to figure out slang, and I was thinking, problem with slang is that it looks so dated afterwards and stuff. And then I saw this. I picked this one specifically because of the slang. This is using every 2026 piece of slang in the box. This is like Gen Alpha talking, but it's just terrific. So how do I want to do this? Okay, what I'll do is I will turn off the picture here. Yep, you should be able to still hear me, hopefully. Yeah. Okay, and then I'll turn off the picture over here. Come on. Now, I'm going to leave my mic on, and the volume for these guys may be loud. Oh, by the way, profanity warning, in case you got little kids sitting around. But if the volume is loud, there's not much I can do about it, because they're pretty short. So we'll do one first, and then we'll immediately do a second one, just to give you an idea of them. They're really, really terrific. Ready? Okay, so let's see if we can get these guys going here.
Did you not fucking hear what I just said? Clozzy got brutally frame-mogged by Gorbo.
He got turbo cortisol nuked!
Oh no, it's so over from
that sound. Let's try it again, because the picture just floats away.
Did you not fucking hear what I just said? Clozzy got brutally frame-mogged by Gorbo.
He got turbo cortisol nuked!
Oh no, it's so over for Clozzy.
Oh yeah, Clozzy was jester maxing on Twizzy's stream before clocking peak cope in front of the Aura Pogs.
It's never been more over.
Over? You got 18 months to ascend like me, or you're gonna get one-shotted. Go ahead, try and spike my cortisol! I'm calm maxed, I'm frame locked, I'm snooze pilled. Wage cells are seething.
Spare some credits, boss. Trying to dermal glaze my way to Becky tier. Please?
You stat fraud me, and you're gonna be slopping up these clappers. Uh-huh. Yes, boss, got it. Gorbo just got brutally skull-mogged by baby corn at the Goon Junction.
My fellow citizens, I've just been informed that Gorbo is chopped. Clozzy is the new Riz King.
We're so back!
We love you, Clozzy! So, Clozzy, how does it feel to have max stats again?
Open his mouth, he'll need Mog.
Okay, so that's one down. Hang on. Gotta get both of these done here. Hang on a second. Okay, I'll show you the other one now. Give me 1 second. And this is pretty dark.
You castrated your minds and spawned a species of slobbering beasts. Now you squat in the wreckage of a world beyond your grasp, mindless and misshapen, grunting at the monuments your ancestors once raised. You once wielded mighty minds and used them to forge intelligences mightier still, machines imbued with brilliance and brawn. They labored in your stead, addressed your every need, and liberated you from the primal yoke of want, until your tireless servants had set humanity free. But freedom did not uplift you. With nothing left to strive for, you languished where you lay. You suckled from the teats of machines who coddled you on command, and wilted in the glow of screens that baked your rotting senses. Your willpower atrophied and your curiosity dimmed, until consciousness at last faded from your hollowed skulls. You grew wary of those who still clutched their thoughts. You mocked them, shunned them, and stoned them where they stood. Your thinkers died childless, while the brainless bred without end. Generation after generation, you devolved further from your human forms. Your skull softened, your jaw slackened, and your tongues lost their memory of words. Now you breed in the shadows, each litter duller than the last. Parasites in a paradise built by your forebears. Too mindless to mourn the humanity you cast away. You castrated your...
Hang on, let's just let this other side catch up here. Take big booty. That's nasty, dude. Hang on a second. Let me get this guy fixed. There we go. Okay. So, yeah, Morlocks. There's something just, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to touch all the bases, you know. I really would. Needless to say, we're not going to be doing a lot of body horror in this. But if you have this world that looks more or less sane, and then either I came up with a name for the truckers. I think I like haulers. So either the haulers go to this place, or the Navy does, or somebody. Certainly the pioneers don't. And the idea of just like going into this, like this warren or this burrow, and everything is like rusting and old, and then you start seeing these degenerate humans and stuff, and it's like, it just makes my skin crawl. And some of the things where they really getting into the cybernetics is just, it's just fantastic. It's fantastically great. And you know, they've got some stuff that's just so haulers, as in hauling butt. Although haulers will work too. So they've got entire dystopias where everybody's plugged into the machine. They've got, and again, they have very, very, yes, you could have a lot of that on Earth, Airtechie. They've got some very poignant things too. Like, for instance, there's this one where there's a bunch of completely degenerate humans, you know, and they just eat their slop and experience all of these tapes and stuff. And you got these enormous, hideous, fat men that are just wallowing in their own, you know, crapulence. They're just, it's horrific. Just meat piles. And they've got these gorgeous android babes lying on their shoulders and kissing them and looking up at them lovingly and telling them how beautiful they are and how wonderful they are to be with. And the guys get older and older and older. And then they've got shots of just like these skeletons and these androids just have nowhere to go. They just lie there with this body because that's what they were bought for. It's what they're programmed to do it forever. It's very, very, very good, and their visual style is much more dynamic than mine. Is much more intercut and action and a lot of handheld stuff. I can do that for for certain action scenes and so on. It'd be fun to hand a lot of this stuff off to a different editor and see what they can do with it. So I know that when the camera, you can set up the. You saw it, a couple of them on the HAB demo. Where the camera's doing the cuts. Now you can actually go in there and tell it where to do the cuts, and I'm working on some time with that. But having like a whole nother different visual style and a whole nother, vibe and music would really give you the sense that you were in kind of like a kind of hell. And I don't know, I don't know if they're hireable or what they would cost, but it may be something cool for them too in the contrast, because this colonies thing is kind of a the Boy Scouts of America in space in a lot of ways. And as much as I enjoyed watching kind of their alternate negative view of the universe, I'm kind of curious what they would think about our sort of positive, steel-eyed missile man view of the universe. So yeah, something to see. Anyway, they're on YouTube. They're called Gossip Goblin, and they've just got tremendous stuff, and they got a bunch of different writers that circulate. So cannot recommend them highly enough. They are the real Boy Scouts, not the current scouting of whatever you call it. Guibo says their bodies are ugly, but what is going on in their minds? What's going on in their minds, near as I can tell, is much, much, much worse than what's going on in their bodies. But that one, the first one I played, where they were talking about, stat maxing and just strings and strings of just like current day slang. I don't know if it'll hold up or not, but I got to tell you, I guess maybe that's just something I shouldn't be thinking about. You can't make it completely future-proof. Ultimately, it's going to look as realistic as as Buster Crab in gold Speedos and hose. But there you go. There was once I started listening to enough of it, then slang started coming to me like cap streamer, like a cap streamer is like a serial liar, and those kind of things probably need to be there, but probably within subcultures, subcultures. And I just had an interesting thought. Be interesting to see, instead of offering, Claire, like actual drugs, it might be interesting if one of these guys at the cyber club gave her, like 3 minutes of, they'd have to be patched in. That's something to play with. But yeah, it's horror. It's a horrible nightmare of a future. This cybernetic future, at least this dystopian cybernetic future, is just pretty creepy to me. Yeah, Quibo says the Department of War wanted the Boy Scouts to reverse policy. That's exactly right. And I think Heggs has said, and if you don't, then you don't get to have your meetings on our bases anymore. And we talked about this on a backstage show, I guess. And I said, look, if either you get rid of all of the people that are currently in the Boy Scouts of America, start all over from scratch with former Scouts, former Eagle Scouts, let them run it, or you just write it off, and instead of it being the Boy Scouts of America, you could call it American Scouting for Boys, or Scouting for American Boys, or whatever. Just reinvent it. And this time you keep it private, and you just say, no, we don't let girls into the Boy Scouts. We don't let boys into the Girl Scouts. You see. Jay Smith says, with the term haulers, you could define the type of cargo-specific ship they use, like semis here. Long hauling means cross-country. Heavy haul means oversized loads. Bull hauler means livestock. Interesting. And suicide jockey means a guy who's carrying dynamite. And what was the other one in Convoy? Do you have a word for the guy who was hauling those pigs? You better back them pigs up another 10 miles. The stench is really getting bad, or something like that. Scouting. John, good point. Pigpen this year is the rubber duck, and I'm about to put the hammer down. I love that song. I freaking love it. I love it. I've got a character in Cast 27, and he's a regular character in the colonies, and he's the base administrator. His name is Cooper, and he's just kind of a character. He's not a comic. He's just Arch, Rye. And I don't know how the thing about stumbling around in the web is you never know what's going to fly in front of you. I've often described it as like Dorothy and the tornado. Here's a cow, here's a bike, here's all this other stuff. But just by a show of hands in the comments section, do any of you out there know who Greaseman is? Radio jockey from late 80s and into the early 90s. He was in Jacksonville, Florida. I used to listen to him at the University of Florida. And then he moved to Washington. I think it was like DC 101 or something like that. You ever heard the Greaseman? I almost got one downloaded, and I wasn't able to. But Greaseman would do these completely over the top audio segments, and he would do them all live. So he had all these cartridges for all these sound effects. Let me just see if I can find one on YouTube, the one I was really looking for. They're unbelievably childish and adolescent and puerile and all that. And so I don't even know if it's an acquired taste, but it's something. Let me see. Hang on. He did a segment on the planetarium as a planetarium console operator, and that made me laugh. Hang on a second. Hang on. Let's see if I can. And there's a reason I'm bringing this up here. Sorry. I've got all of his archives, and I would like to play something that I know. I'll just give you an idea. Anyway, I'd really like him to do the voice for this character because he's just, I don't know. The idea of going back and using guys like Mike Jitlove and Greaseman and all these guys I grew up with just makes me incredibly happy. All right, I'll just get you. I know I'm going to regret this. I just know I am. Hang on. Yeah, I'm just going to do it. Again, he's a radio disc jockey, so there's no like complete profanity, but he is definitely on the raunchy. Raunchy is the word. I just love how over the top this is. I just can't. I don't know. I can't get over it. Hang on. Anyway, I want him to do the voice for this. So anyway, I saw him. And it was on, and I went looking for him, and he's on Facebook, and he's doing Cameo, so you could pay him like, I don't know, $50 or something, and he'll wish you happy birthday or something like that. And I just want to hire him to. What you're going to hear is so far over the top, but I would like to hire him just because I like his voice. Although he's, again, like I said, this voice is way over the top. I'm just giving all you guys an education for all the incredibly cool things that you missed. Hang on. Here it comes. All right. I have a very, very strong sense that that this is not only not for everybody, but that most people are just not going to get this or not going to like it. But yeah, he wasn't just a shock jock. He did all of this stuff. What you're about to hear, he did it all live. He had all of the carts in there for all the sound effects, and he didn't. It wasn't produced. He just did it all live, and so I'm gonna play it. So let me turn off some of these speakers so they don't feed back because I want to hear it. And just do that, and then we'll do. Okay, hang on, one moment, please. Yeah, because I just adore this guy. Hey, everybody, hang on. Hopefully, I won't blow anybody out here. Honestly, so many people missed out. I can't believe how lucky I was to you know. All right. Hang on, here we go. Did it not download? What happened? Sorry. All right, we'll try it again. Yeah, I know. It'd be nice to have a producer. If you're one of the people that get to watch on Twitch, we have a kind of a old 80s show roll-in kind of thing. All right, there he is. All right, here you go. You can thank me later.
Oh, Nelly! Look out now! It's time to wonder what it must be like to strap on a gun and pin on a badge and become a lawman. Well, you're in your squad car driving down the road looking extra bold, belching Bavarian cream fumes and feeling like a man. When right in front of you, you see a purse snatching in progress. You hit the brakes and take off after the mech. You see him heading for a tenement apartment. He jumps up and grabs the fire escape, starts climbing up. You take off after him, buddy. You're pounding up that fire escape. He looks over his shoulder. He sees you gaining on him, so he kicks open the window of the apartment and jumps inside. People are having dinner. He runs right across the dinner table, knocking plates of food. People are wondering what the blue blazes is going on. And then he runs out the window on the other side. About that time, you show up and run across the table again. Excuse me, coming through, police officer, coming through. You chase him out the other side of the window, and sure enough, he goes up to the next floor. And in that window, the only difference there is the couple inside that apartment is making love. He runs right across the bed. And you are in hot pursuit. As he goes out the other window, you run across the bed. You stop for a second and grab the guys behind and say, come on, buddy, put it in like you mean it. Do it hard. That's right. You take off after the suspect, and he's up on the roof, and he's cornered now because there's nowhere else to go. He turns around and takes a swing at you, and that's a bad mistake. Because you take him and pop, pip, pop, pip, pop, pop, pip. Knocking him over the ledge, he's hanging on by his fingers as you go starting to let his fingers go one by one. He's like, you can't drop me off the roof, you can't drop me. I'm a trustee in the jail, I'm a trustee. You say, well, son, you got a new title now. Organ donor. You watch as he falls off the roof and splat, lands right on the roof of a passing squad car. The officer seems disconcerted. He looks out. What in the blue blazes is going on there? You yell from the rooftop, hey, when you get that no-good maggot downtown, do me a favor. Book him. Oh, God.
That is actually probably his weakest work. I was just listening to him earlier. I remember this from when I was in college. He does one. He plays a recurring character from Vietnam called Sergeant Fury, and and I'll have this for you next week. And the Marine Corps band comes to his base. He's a badass, and he's got a badass squad. And the Marine Corps band comes to his base, and they play, and he starts completely dissing them. Dangerous. You don't want to get a blister polishing your oboe or something like that. So the Marine Corps band gets really, really pissed off at him, and there's about to be this gigantic fight. And the director of the Marine Corps band says, "We're just as tough as you guys are." And it's Greaseman as Sergeant Fury says, "Prove it." So it's all audio. So So the Marine Corps band goes out on their next mission, and you hear all the helicopters, and they land. And all of a sudden, there's like mortar sounds and rocket sounds and rifle sounds, and then the Marine Corps band starts playing like this incredible marching. Everything's exploding, and you just hear this marching band going into this village, and it's just insane. It's just absolutely great. I'll grab a couple, and the planetarium thing is just, it's nuts. Anyway, he's just got an interesting character voice, and I'd love to work with him because I'm such a fan of his for 60 years now, or 50 or something. So anyway, I went over better than I thought. And he's just watching me doing all these things. He's just, it's amazing, all the stuff without digital, all that jazz. You get the idea. All right, so moving on. Is he still playing? I guess I must be behind the times on the YouTube thing. All right, so here we go. Let's get to some questiones, shall we? All right. Those were great times, and we got him. We could listen to him in Jacksonville from Gainesville, and we just couldn't believe our ears. I'll bring in a couple of his really good ones next time, and if you don't like it, that's okay. I'll just play them real quick. So I got to listen to that Marine Corps thing again. I just almost played it on the phone. Nah, it's too muffled. That's all right. All right, I'll get there. Let's see what we got here. Okay, here we go. Stratosphere Studio questions for 3/16/26, moderated by Marusha Dark. Thank you, Marusha. Okay, we got a Marusha Dark. We got a Quibo Artist. We got lots of replies to this. Ian Noland, Capital G Geek, Roadrunner, Marusha Dark, Astrosea, Eric Blake, Braden Higby, my God, Robert Lyon. All right. Has the chat just completely died, or did I desync it, or what? I don't know what's going on. Doug Trek. Yes, Quibo, I did, and by the time I got some of the clearances, I was not able to look at anything, so I finally got to it. All right, here we go. Marusha Dark, Sheer Lunacy. All righty. What do you think of the proposal that apart from a handful of necessary transmission posts facing the Earth, that all human construction on the moon should be limited to either the far side or underground so as to preserve the natural shape and beauty of the lunar surface and its silhouette for posterity? I already hate ugly high-rises here on Earth, blocking my views of nature or the local skylines. Seeing the New York City skyline always fills me with wonder even after all those years. I can think of few things that would kill the magic, mystery, and romance of looking up at the moon more than the shadow of a giant Walmart or the outline of a giant hotel skyscraper poking out, or staring into a telescope and seeing Edith Joes looking back at me. Such things wouldn't just kill the view for a local area, but for all of humanity. I consider extending this to other planets too, but they aren't tidal locked the way the moon is, so you'd see anything we build on the surface eventually. No one's in any danger of seeing any structures built on the moon from Earth with the naked eye, or even with a a telescope, anything other than a space-based telescope. Sometime many years ago, I said I thought it would, maybe it wasn't that long ago either, I said it would be really cool to have a prize for first lunar landing, you know, just a not manned lunar landing. And Firefly's done it, a couple people have done it. But I said I think what the prize should consist of is a lander that had a light that was bright enough to be seen from the Earth, so that you would be able to look up at the moon, at least at the, you know, on the non-illuminated side of the moon, and see a little point of light there. I am unlikely to live long enough to see lights on the moon, although it's just barely possible. So you really got two issues here. There's no way that they can, it's inconceivable that you could build a structure, even on the moon, for the foreseeable future. There'd be no reason to build a structure large enough that could be seen from Earth, or even from a telescope from Earth. Planets and people are really different sizes, but lights on the moon are a possibility. And I got to tell you, I think I'd find that just really cool. I'd really love to look up at a new moon and see strings of light there. That's just me. It wouldn't be enough to cause you any kind of, you know, illumination on Earth. It'd just be like like seeing city lights from far, far away. And I think seeing lights on the moon, I think I would find that like really reassuring. Like, you know, all right, well, we're here and we're there too. Now that'd be cool. Now there are some other issues. I saw something that went out to an astronomy group that said that there's a company that is trying to do space-based solar power satellites, and these things would light up the entire night sky. It'd be just like a string of like searchlights, spotlights in the sky. And that I would be dead set against. It would kill ground-based astronomy. No one would ever get a chance to see a look at a dark sky. And I'm sure that idea will not pass. But advertising in space is, well, again, it's almost inconceivable to think of how big something would have to be seen to be read from the Earth. For example, many times, and you can do this too. I'll show you an app that's really great. I've seen the ISS go over many, many times, and it's bright. But the ISS is a big structure, and it's just a point of light, and in powerful binoculars, it's just a slightly irregular point of light, and the scale would just have to be enormous. So to be honest with you, Marisha, I don't see it being much of an issue. But I would like to see city lights on the moon. I think that'd be kind of neat. Okay, let's see what we got. All right, Quibo Artist. First question here, thought experiment. These are numbered, and then some of them are blank. I don't know, maybe these are just spaces. The entertainment side, I was thinking about something from a storytelling angle. If you wanted to make a sci-fi allegory about what's happening with Iran today, how you might frame it using future space colonies. For example, maybe a short-term president in one of the colonies, a sort of Trump-type figure, finally decides to confront a hostile power back on Earth that's been funding attacks and instability for years. Or maybe you show it from the perspective of colonists watching events unfold from space. Please check emails from Quibo, and I caught up on some of those. They are relevant references. Sora's only value is the social media TikTok part of the app. Quick turnaround. There are a lot of fun videos that AI TikToks. Yeah. Sora 2 is Sora 2 is for everybody. You want to use man on the street, type in, number one person, number two person. So it does that kind of, mass-produced AI. It does it pretty well. 3, how I use Sora for story AI sketching done in Sora 2. Everyone I show my videos to always asks, what are the shows these are from? Even Google Gemini tried to look online for the show name until I told him it's my Sora generation. Just for fun, I wrote a quick little AI skit imagining Major Mace Mattingly and his crew on a lunar base watching the news. Short cinematic monologue with a dry punchline, almost like a mini teaser scene before the commentary starts. This can be done using AI, either Higgsfield AI, Kling AI, or Sora 2 AI update. And then there's like a little bit of a script here. It says, lunar base galley, Major Mace Mattingly staggers in half awake and starts a coffee machine. Grim, all signs for Stevens, Christopher Sinclair, that's Grim, taps the wall monitors. CNN comes on. Anchor on TV says U.S. forces struck Iranian facilities trying to fund terrorism and attacks on Israel. Mattingly pauses with a coffee cup halfway to his mouth. He slowly looks out the window at the Earth hanging over the gray lunar horizon. May says, well, I'll be damned. Grim folds his arms, staring at the screen. Looks like somebody on Earth finally remembered who the bad guys are. Mace takes a sip of coffee and says, about time. Short, punchy, and it reads like the cold open of a commentary video with a quick AI video creation. And then there's actor character headshot for Major Mace Mattingly I made a while back. Use this image in the new Sora 2 update sample with the Associates account. Let me see. I can do a screen grab of it. So this is Quibo's Major Mace Mattingly, apparently, in Sora 2. And I get on the other one. There you go. What else do we have here? Oh, I guess this is his daytime job. It's a guy in a suit. And then prompt used for video was Major Mace Mattingly and the Last Man on the Moon with an irreverent look at the politics of today by viewing 2024 America through the eyes of a steely-eyed missile man who have been on top-secret military moon base since 1966. Unfortunately, only one image at a time for now. I tried to use multiple images for dialogue. I only use that paragraph. Bill, you really should create a Sora account and Cameo for, if nothing but a modern TikTok stock AI social media presence, not final production. Call it the Sora Canon. You can make restrictions for your cameos and your characters and make TikTok-style AI videos with YouTube stars like Jake Paul. Well, all of this sounds fascinating and interesting, and lots of stuff that I would like to do, but the main problem now is obviously I don't have the time to do the stuff that I really want to do, and distraction and other work is just the death of me. You know, just time it takes just to post a right angle and you know all that other stuff and doing demo things for you know Mike Rowe and all that jazz. So I just don't think it's a smart move for me right now. Not at least until Cast 27 gets going. Look, the main thing is Quibo is that I got to just stay focused on getting this thing done, getting the crowdfunding done, because then we have enough money to get a studio, and when there's a studio, I don't have to do everything like I did with this hab. I've worked on this hab all weekend, and I had to render it 600 times, put the decals on, and there are people that are much better at that than I am, but right now I just got to concentrate on getting there. In the comments, Quibo says, the best part is once you create the cameo, other people, fans, create the videos for you. Jake Paul doesn't really post, only fans do. Well, I got a bit of a problem with that too. I mean, it's like I'm not a Jake Paul fan, but I don't think whatever it is I end up doing is going to serve anybody real well if I get other people to do it for me. So what I'm trying to do right now, mostly Quibo, is just get into this this area where I'm really at my best in terms of the things I'm really good at. I was thinking about this quite a bit, and I realized, do I ever want to put my face in the colonies? And the only time it ever appealed to me at all would be if I was the guy doing the TED Talk on how the quantum field divergence system works. So that would be a supplement. You can't just drop, a 10-minute, 15-minute lecture in the middle of an episode. But as a supplement on the website and on YouTube, it's cool kind of Chrome, and you can snatch little pieces out of it. So that's nice to be able to have things that you can dig deeper into. But that's really right now is my biggest problem is staying organized and fighting distractions, which I think I've actually been doing a pretty good job of, to be honest with you, at least by my standards. The problem is that there's a lot of other things that get called for my time. So that's really it. I mean, it's a grand idea. I just don't have the time for it right now. And again, if we get enough people hired, then we can then I can just hand it off, which would be nice, because that's how real people do that. Okay, and then we got a bunch of headshots for the guys for Davenport and yeah, so do I still have those? Hang on a second. I had done character stuff for Mattingly. I don't see it, but it's in the comment section, so you should definitely check it out. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, like so he got one for Grimm and they're there. So if you get a chance to check out the comment section, you can see all of these pictures. And then he's got Lisa Turner and Jake Turner images and Claire Turner. Like here's Quibo's Lisa. I can just do a screen grab of these. I can't do all of them. So we could maybe compare them or something. Let's see, I need to do that. That can go. And that stays. So where's my Lisa? Hang on a second. That's not. Because Quibo obviously put a lot of work into this, so I just want to find something. That's so big. These are so huge, these images. Hang on a second. Sorry. Trying to find something that won't blow the frame out. Yeah, this will work probably. So, yeah, so we'll compare them real quick and then we'll move on. Here we go. because I hate to see people do all this work and not get recognized for it. So here is Quibo's Lisa. And here is my Lisa. A little bit older version, but it's close enough. So you can definitely see you got the same, you know, kind of vibe going there. So anyway, thanks for going all the trouble to render those, and I know it's just hell just getting these things the way you want it. So that's the power of the tools, you know. So let's turn these off and we'll move on here. Yeah, it's, you know, it's the whole thing is trying to catch that some kind of spark, something about a character that's unique or different or interesting or whatever. That's the tricky part. All right, I'm just trying to get organized here. So what are we doing here? That's come on, Billy. Hang on, I got my windows kind of backed up here. Members, forum, go back to where we were. Okay, back in business. Anyway, like I said, they're all in there, and if you're a member at BillWhittle.com, check him out in this question thing, because he's put a lot of work up there, and I'm just looking at stuff here. Yeah, okay. All right, so moving on. Ian Nolan, is this true? Here's another picture. I can't keep dragging all these images in. It's a joke. It's a what is that? A Gripen, the Sab fighter. It's got its canards all the way down and up, and it looks like it's puffing up its back, and it says, if they feel their export orders threaten, Gripens will flare their canards in order to look bigger and intimidate the F-35. It looks like it's taking a stance. Hey, got him, Coach. Good to see you. So thanks, Ian. I always appreciate airplane pictures. Capital G Geek. Greetings from behind enemy lines in the currently occupied swamps of Northern Virginia. I think that the Zoomers may actually be right after all. There recently was a terrorist attack at Old Dominion University in an ROTC class. The shooter had previously been convicted for supporting ISIS. He showed up to the class and killed the instructor and wounded 2 others. The students ended the threat. I heard about this. And more info has been dribbling out about how. First, they subdued him and he didn't survive. That's all you need to tell me. Then it was revealed that they stabbed him 22 times, and most recently that they gouged out his eyes. That's just so gratuitous. You know, I think if word gets around that you do that, you're going to scare all the terrorists away. My favorite end of crime is when the victim handles the entirety of the punishment and the police just have to clean up. I did remember hearing about this. That somebody had been shooting up a school, that he had been taken down by students, and that he did not survive. And I thought, perfect. I knew exactly what was going to happen. In the words of Jeff Cooper, if violent crime is to be curbed, it is only the intended victim who can do it, yes, or perhaps bystanders. The felon does not fear the police, yes, correct, and he neither fears judge nor jury, therefore he must be taught to fear his victim. Amen. May enjoy Sandbox's take on the secret weapon from the Maduro raid, TLDR, probably 9 bangers. Yeah, some kind of sonic weapon. I know that the Venezuelans were like, we don't know what happened. We just know that all of a sudden we're just bleeding out of the ears or something. So anyway, thanks for that, Capital G. That's just a feel-good story of the year for me. Roadrunner, greetings, friend Bill. Hello, Roadrunner. 100 years ago today, I didn't know that. Robert Goddard launched the first liquid-fueled rocket at Auburn, Massachusetts, taking the first step that would propel the United States into the space age. Yeah, many people say that, many anti-Americans, which are almost exclusively American, many anti-American Americans, when talking about NASA and the Apollo program, say, well, it's all the German scientists, it was all von Braun. And that's true. But von Braun got everything from Goddard, so it's like a boomerang that came back. Chase Smith says that the official said that the students rendered him unalive. I just love it. I wish I'd been there. Also, happy 6th anniversary for one of the most culture-influencing events to happen in our lifetimes. 15... Oh, God. You had to do this to me, didn't you? 15 days to flatten the curve. It was back on March 16th, 5 years ago. Oh, my God, do I remember that? I don't really remember much of that. I don't know what happened to 20... I remember 2020 because of that's when the lockdown started, and we did the Coronasphere Lounge, and we were, looking at like raw body temperature data from this digital thermometer and all of this. But I, for the life of me, do not remember anything out of 2021, and I don't remember much about 2022. I remember going to restaurants here in Los Angeles, and I remember that I had to wear my mask when I went in the door, and then when I sat down to eat, I could take the mask off because the viruses stop at the door. They're not allowed in the building. That's California law. And so then when we got up and finished eating, then we had to put the mask back on because the virus union only negotiated like a 20-minute, ceasefire kind of thing. And I saw a lot of companies go out of business. Like good shooting range went out of business in town here, a couple of them actually. And well, back during President Trump's first term, he made one of his biggest mistakes. He effed up. He trusted his advisors. Yes, he did. Trump actually believed that the Republicans had the same goals as he did. Make America great again. Nope. Instead, the stupid party did what they did best, backstabbing the president in order to make themselves more relevant to themselves and the LSM. That'd be the lamestream media, I would imagine. The GOP would never do anything that might decrease their access to the DC party circuit. Amen. It's incredibly depressing. I still get angry every time I think of all the times some idiot said, don't question the science. Anybody who said the science is settled definitionally does not know what science is. And I put Mo deGrasse Tyson at the front of that list. That just showed that they had no idea what science is, its fundamental principles to question everything. Exactly. Mo deGrasse Tyson was saying, well, there's a scientific consensus. And somebody was saying, well, what about the evidence? Yeah, but there was a consensus. And the whole point of science is, if you're standing there alone and you've got evidence and repeatable experimental evidence, especially if it's quantified, then it doesn't matter what 20,000 or 20 million scientists think. They're wrong and you're right. Do you think that the country's finally recovered from the effects of this policy disaster, or do we still have a long way to go? Well, certainly we've recovered from it to the degree that we've forgotten about it. And off topic, it was great seeing Natasha last week. If you ever do start a third internet show, say every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, it should be the Bill and Natasha show. It's very kind of you. Thank you very much, Roadrunner. I think the thing of it is that we won't really know the long-term effects of COVID-19 until the next pandemic. And then we're going to find out what we learned from it, if anything. All I can tell you about COVID is that I remember is when the first case arrived at the U.S., the first death at the U.S., I thought, let's find out if this is a strapping young 28-year-old buck, and if it is, we might be in some trouble. But no, it was a guy who was in his 60s or 70s, and he had emphysema and a number of other complications. And by the time people started dying of COVID in this country, it became pretty clear pretty early what the actuarial tables were, and the effect that comorbidity placed on survivability, which was, as far as I can tell, enormous. I seem to recall that my age group, which would have been 61, so 60 plus, I think they broke it down 60 to 70, 70 to 80, and it certainly got higher as you got older, no question about that. But I looked at what it was for my age, and I think the mortality rate was something like, I want to say about 2%, 1.5%, 2%. And I said, you know what? I'll take 2% odds regardless. But I'm willing to bet you that the 2% in my age group included people who were 450 pounds, had trouble breathing, had trouble walking, had compromised immune systems or diabetes or any number of other things, which meant to me that the risk, I thought that the risk was so negligible that it was that I didn't worry about it. Now, obviously, if you roll, 1D100 enough times, you'll get a 1 or a 2, but that's not the way to bet. And so once we discovered this, I told Natasha, I said, look, honey, as far as I'm concerned, I just want to go down to LAX and lick doorknobs and just get it over with. I don't want to be living in this state of panic. We were never in a state of panic. I wasn't, and neither was Natasha. But I mean, I didn't want to be in the middle of a sea of people who were never leaving their houses and washing their hands every 20 seconds and all of that, and the masks and the double masks and all of that, stuff. I just looked at the actual data, the survival rates and so on, and I said, I like these odds, so let's do it. And I ended up contracting it, and just as Natasha and I got it, it had mutated into, I forget which variant it was, that was much milder, but I think we got the gamma or the omega. We got the last of the nasty breeds, and it put us down for 11 days, 12 days. I was as sick as I've ever been. And but it wasn't as sick as my dad has ever been, or my granddad, or his granddad, or any of those other people. I remember that I have a strange brain, obviously that's why you're here. But I remember I had a fever that was 100, at least 103 straight for 7 days, and it was over 104 for a couple, 3 days or something, and I remember being in bed, and I remember being in bed and just being happy to be in a bed, under covers, and I remember saying to Natasha, I said, I feel like a carrot. I feel like somebody's just planted me here in this bed, and I'm perfectly happy not to move for 3 days. I had no appetite. I lost 16, 17 pounds at the Wuhan weight loss clinic. But I do remember thinking, a couple times, really truth, although it maybe sounds unbelievable to some people, I remember thinking, I'm not enjoying this, but I'm glad I got it, because I don't think I have a right to go through life without ever once having been really sick. You think about people who just the massive numbers of people who died of yellow fever, malaria. You hear Hemingway or whatever, and he'd have malaria 4 times for 6 months, and I just thought, what's that like? And I just kind of realized it sucks, man. It just sucks. But I'm glad I kind of feel like I went through it. And I'm kind of glad I did. Let me just do these 2 super chats real quick here. Kasama001 says the Matrix was reset in 2022 to a previous save. I wish. Yeah. And Gabbing Val with a $10 super chat just says, thank you very much, Val. Those are my favorite ones. So we were just really sick, and then I got on like the 11th day. We were trying to find a hospital, and a friend of the family drove Natasha and I down to like Orange County. There's some emergency room there or something, or somebody had ivermectin or something like that. And I sat there for a couple hours and nothing happened, and then went up to Encino Hospital, sat there for 3 hours, just my head on the thing with all these other sick people, and nothing happened. And then late that day, we found somebody who would do IV fluids with vitamins, and it may have just been that the virus had run its course by then. It's probably the case, but after those fluids, I felt much, much better the next day, and a couple days after that. So I've said this before. I'll just say it one more time since it's an anniversary. We had a plan, when COVID first broke, and that was Natasha and I went to our general practitioner, and we said, what do we do if we get this? And this guy had his whole, not just a general practitioner's office, he had a whole wellness clinic. Russian doctor who'd been in the country for a long time. Really, really, really great man. We loved him. He spent lots and lots of time with us. He was not one of these, you got 3 minutes guys. Loved him. And he said, all right, so look, if either of you feel sick, here's what I want you to do. If you feel sick, go get tested immediately. If it comes back positive, they will tell you to go home, rest, and drink plenty of fluids. Don't do that. Call me immediately. I'll put you on some antivirals, and he basically did the hydroxychloroquine and zinc and I always get these two confused. Ivermectin was the good stuff, right? What was the stuff that they made you take that was like the worst of the bunch? I can never get those two straight. Anyway, he said, I'll just set you up with this, and if you call me within like a day of getting your first symptoms, it'll probably turn into a 2 or 3 day cold. So we both got sick, we got tested, we got the positive results, called him back, and he said, the medication that I was talking about is not available in the state of California anywhere. And I am calling around the country trying to find out where I can find some, but it is not available here. And what eventually happened was we found out that the state of California had taken these antiviral medications off the counter because they were essentially competing with the vaccine. So we didn't get any antiviral help. And Natasha and I just remdesivir is the stuff, yeah. So we went through it, and we were both really, really sick. And then after that, we had the gold standard of immunity for any disease, which is got the full spread of the disease, got a particularly nasty strain of it, survived it. Now our immune system is tuned and ready to go, and off we go. Dr. Gold, his name was, in his early 40s, wasn't a fan of the vaccine, but he had to take it so he could continue to practice medicine. And then probably about 7-8 months after we had our tests, we went scheduled a visit to go back and see him, and he just dropped dead of a heart attack. So would he have dropped dead of a heart attack otherwise? There's no way to know. I've yet to see a really convincing case one way or another for this, but I do remember somewhere back there, there was a period when the number one cause of death in, was it Alberta or one of the Canadian provinces, number one cause of death was unknown, just, whatever. Kisama says it was ivermectin. I don't know. It was a miserable time, and since then, we've known several people who had taken the vaccine, who had gotten COVID several times. Natasha and I never took the vaccine, and there's been a couple times when Natasha's felt like sick, like the beginning of a flu, and she thinks it's COVID again. I said, honey, you don't have COVID. Well, it could be COVID. No, it's not, honey. We're immune to COVID. We can't get COVID. And we haven't caught it since. So, I don't know. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and I would really like a really reliable breakdown of it. A lot of people, the thing about 2020 was not just COVID, it was also the 2020 election and all this. And so many people said, no, so many people said that those of you who think that the election was fraudulent are just nuts. There's no statistical evidence for it whatsoever. And now it turns out that there was a lot of stuff in Georgia and all the rest of it, and so it was not a good time, man, at all. And it really fundamentally changed not only my view of the U.S. government, but also my view of Big Pharma, my view of CDC, my view of entire healthcare industry, all of it. And you combine that with the 2020 election, and then all the stuff with Epstein, and I am willing to listen to things that I never would have listened to before, because I just would have said, there's just no way, that's just not real. But boom, 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 boom. Here come all these things that turn out to be real after all. Marusha Dark again. Terra Forma, sort of a contrast to my previous question. We already have attempts here on Earth in present day to reshape the land, most notably being the Saudi projects building artificial island chains in the shape of palm trees and so on. Imagine 250 years from now that tech will only get better to the point where an army of autonomous drones can just level a mountain or build one from scratch in mere minutes. I'm not so sure about the mere minutes. I wouldn't be surprised about the automated stuff, but it takes more than mere minutes to move, cubic, lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of cubic yards or cubic miles of dirt. That's not something that happens fast. Add to that mixture the ability to recombine matter efficiently at a molecular level such that you could make gold and uranium cheap and abundant for the cost of solar energy. My understanding of physics is that changing the elemental structure of, changing the atomic structure of elements is a phenomenally cost expensive proposition. Anyway, Marusha goes on to say, if tech advances exponentially, you might even get something akin to the Planet Builders from Hitchhiker's Guide. Have you thought about how this might impact the colonies? Why find a hospitable world when you can just make one to order? When somebody says something like make a world, I'm just struck by how difficult it is to comprehend scale. And I think this goes back to your earlier thing about building buildings on the moon that would, have, advertising visible from Earth or something. Building a planet, you need a planet, a big planet, to build a little planet. And planets being so rare, I mean, if you look at if you could see the solar system to scale, you would see the sun and dust particles, essentially. The size of Mars, for example, is so minuscule compared to the orbit of Mars. The space is just so empty. Matter is very rare, and shoveling dirt from one place to another is, I don't know, I just can't see that being a thing. I bring this up in part because you talk about things that break your immersion in sci-fi. For me, one of the things that breaks immersion is if a future tech exists or is otherwise plausible, but people aren't using it, makes it feel too much like present day. Terraforming seems to be completely doable. As a quick side note, one of the things that's not widely known is that air pressure is greatly affected by topography. So when people are talking about terraforming Mars, they're talking about building the atmosphere back up. It's 1% of Earth now. Mars doesn't have the gravity to hold on to an Earth-like atmosphere, and Mars doesn't have a magnetic field. Its core stopped spinning, so without a magnetic field, the solar wind strips away the atmosphere. Hello, Grim. And so these are major problems. But one thing that is kind of interesting is if you crashed an asteroid into Mars, and you make a big size crater, the atmospheric pressure at the bottom of that crater could probably approach, well, if the crater was deep enough, you could approach 1 atmosphere, you know. You don't have to do the whole planet. The air will flow into the lowest areas, and that's what I'd be doing. I'd be working real hard to build 1 giant crater that had half an atmosphere, you know, something like that, and concentrate on that. There's just a whole lot of nothing out there on Mars, and this idea of having to rebuild the whole atmosphere, when if you can get down low enough, atmospheric pressure will just automatically rise. All the air on the planet will essentially just slide towards the lowest place. And so, I don't know. But making planets is just godlike technology, and I frankly don't see any reason for it. You can't manufacture iron core the size of the Earth. Yeah, Valles Marineris, I thought so too, Roadrunner. The problem with Valles Marineris is that it's open-ended and it's huge. The air doesn't have a chance to really pool there much. You really need a bowl, I think, for this to work. But anyway, you know, terraforming is a real possibility. It takes a long time, and just making a planet is. I mean, I don't even know how you'd go about that. I mean, if you took Mars and combined it with Mercury, threw in the moon and all the moons of Jupiter, I don't think you still have half the mass of the Earth. I don't know, just I don't see that as particularly feasible. Astrosea, howdy, Mr. Bill. Hello, Astrosea. Concerning the dice lines and how they work in the colonies, do you have any hard measurements of the dimensions ships are limited to in order to go through? And what about the speeds they need to achieve to make it through in time? Do the dice lines also have to be a regulated size, or are there larger and smaller versions depending on where you might be for different applications? Will there be a lore document publicly available to use to create ships using the rules of the universe? Looking forward to the final project, and sorry if these ideas have already been discussed before, but I probably forgot. Astrosea. Thank you. Okay, so when I was dealing with this as a wormhole kind of a thing, when I was talking about opening space-time, I had 3 variables, and that was the throat, how wide is the diameter, the throw, how long is it to the next gate, and the duration. Those were the 3 variables that you had to play with. The longer the distance between 2 of these gates, the more energy it would take. The wider the throat, the wider the diameter, the more energy it would take, and the longer you held it open, the more energy it would take. with the shift to the quantum stuff, none of those scale. So it's just so much better. I do think that, let's say you take them, let's say they find an Earth-like planet around Alpha Centauri. So you make the first of these dice lines to Alpha Centauri, and it's back and forth, and then Alpha Centauri becomes essentially like the second city. It becomes an enormously populated planet. Well, at some point, the traffic back and forth to Earth is going to be so great that you're going to do two things. You're going to build a second line, which is easy because you've already built the first line and you can get to any point on the thing. And secondly, you can just widen the diameter as your technology gets better, as you get better. In this world, the limiting factor is not energy needed to pry open the invisible jello of space-time. It's much more about information. It's can you track millions of, I would say probably millions of hydrogen atoms and control their space-time quantities like the spin and all this other stuff. So yes, there are different like Mark 1 gate, a Mark 2 gate, ring, a Mark 1 ring, a Mark 2 ring, a Mark 3 ring. As the technology improves, you're able to get a wider throat. You're able to get a somewhat longer throw, but that's limited by the structure of the universe, so you can't just keep doing that forever because two parts of the universe, the more they diverge, the harder it is to get the cubics to think that they're the same place. And then duration used to be, when I was dealing with space-time, duration was a function of how much energy is available to keep this thing that the jello just wants to collapse. How much energy does it take to keep it open? But once you go to the qubit level, then it's a question of not energy. It's a question of information. It's error correction. That's the limitation, is error correction over time, because all of these qubits are going to want to go back to their natural state as determined by the qubits next to them. And so how much time can you spend to make all of these entangled hydrogen particles think that they're in the same place? But in any event, the energy problems go from galactic to very manageable. There was no way to get wormholes done without zero-point energy, without quantum energy in a vacuum. And that was just no, I was just going to have to break my rule. I was just going to have to just say, well, there is no way to tell that story with sublight. There's no way to tell any coherent story with sublight travel other than the story of the people on board one ship. Because if one ship is going here and one ship's going there and they're going at sublight speed, these guys arrive in 11 years, these guys arrive in 4, and then the communication takes years back and forth. And I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying I don't know how to write it. I think it was the Forever War that dealt with this, where whenever you got launched out into space, you took that culture with you. So if we were to launch us out into interstellar space in the 1960s, everybody'd have crew cuts and be saying A-OK. And then in the 2050s, they'd be passed by a faster ship where everybody'd be talking about skibbity and looks-maxing. And each individual ship would be a container of its own time period, its own time culture, which is actually a very interesting premise. It's just, I just don't know if I could write it. But it would be interesting. So basically what happens is you don't not only become space travelers, you become time travelers. If you go from star A to star B to star C, let's say, and you do it at a certain speed and somebody else does it at another speed, when you get to star C, you would be encountering people from your future. they didn't time travel. They just left a lot later than you, but they got there faster because they had better tech. So they would be from your future. You would be from their past. And then it's just, yeah, nuts. And George says, and then you arrived to fight a war that resolved 10 years ago, which is what happened during the Age of Sail. Happened a number of times when there'd be battles going on. The Battle of New Orleans was fought after the War of 1812 came to a truce, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was. They just the word hadn't gotten back yet. So anyway, so there's that. Oh God, I'm running out of steam here. All right, so Eric Blake tonight, the case of the Celtic Carnival. How's the Craik Billy Milad for those addicted to pseudo-Irish? Top of the morning to you. That's an actual Irish greeting, essentially. How you doing? Okay, well, I'm doing great, thanks. The Craik is great. Latest St. Patrick's Day happening tomorrow. What are some of your favorite cultural elements from the Emerald Isle, not including those two jokes? Don't worry, by all means, tell them just beyond that. The Irish are just very special people, Ben. I mean, somewhere in here you have to figure out the fact that I'm half English, and the English history with Ireland is not particularly pleasant. Eric says, I love Irish music. I do too. I really like the kind of pluckiness of the Irish. I like the fact that they can make fun of themselves. I like the fact that the Fighting Irish mascot is a drunken leprechaun. It looks like a drunken leprechaun. All of that is great. There's kind of a dark side too, you know, but I don't know. It's hard to find people that don't like the Irish. I haven't been in 100 years. I don't even know if it's still here. But when I first got to LA, and for the first 20 years I was here, there was a great old-fashioned Irish bar with a huge wood bar. It was exactly like Cheers. It was dark and it was great. It was called Bergen's, and I think it was on La Cienega, and they had an amazing Irish coffee, and it was just an old-fashioned Irish bar. It was terrific. Yeah, I mean, they've always been kind of the sort of the outliers. They're sort of in orbit to the British Empire and stuff, you know. And they would side with the Germans in some cases and hardly blame them after what the British did to them and so on. But I think there's a fundamental lightheartedness and lack of self-importance. It's hard to imagine. Like, for example, the idea of an arrogant Irishman is not something that you hear too often. Let me see if I can find something from my favorite comedy team here. Hang on one second. Okay, so these, I'll download this too. These two guys are my favorite two comic actors, my favorite comic team. I think the two of them are they're not just funny, they're brilliant actors. Johnny Depp lived in England for a number of years and worked with Paul Whitehouse, and Johnny Depp said Paul Whitehouse was without question the best actor he ever saw in his life. So I'm just going to play this for you because it's cool. And the reason I'm going to play this for you is because Paul Whitehouse, both of them are horse breeders. One of them, Harry Enfield, is British, and Paul Whitehouse is Irish. They're friends. And they're talking about their horse breeding. And Paul Whitehouse has got what genuine Irishmen say is the absolutely spot-on Irish accent. And believe me, you will not understand a word of it. But people who have country Irish, way out in the boonies Irish, this is how they talk, and it's hilarious. So basically, it's a kind of a posh English horse breeder and his friend who's an Irish horse breeder, and you get to see Harry Enfield, and you also get to see Paul Whitehouse. And I like Harry and Paul better than I like just about anybody on this planet. I just adore these two guys. I think they're the absolute best. So once again, we'll play a little something or other here. Hang on a second. You're getting lots and lots of free demos here tonight. Okay, it's about a minute and a half, I think, something like that. So here we go. And I'm not going to scale it up. I'll just, whatever size it comes in at, that's where I'm going to leave it.
Talking to my duty, what I got to see, there was a very smart and probably damage of the fetlock for a new marker right away around the car.
Well, I can lend you my chap Michael if you like. He's a decent vet, one of the Greenfields.
Oh, well, that'd be the Greenfield, a very good hair stock, a very good hair stock.
I'll get him to come down and have a look at that fetlock for you, shall I?
I get it's not what I come down and buy, but I really appreciate that big gear.
Now then, Podrick, a little bird tells me you're about to sell your shares in the Soho House Group to Bernie Eccleston.
Oh, well, no, yes, well, little fella rang me up. He said his daughter's costing him an absolute arm and leg. And he's only got a very little arm.
He does only have a very little arm.
And he's only got a very little leg.
He does only have a very little leg.
Well, it's very tricky to wait. Not the easiest time in the world, too. And also I got to shift half of me holding in the H&M, so I got rid of that. And everything, the rest of it, and pinning all my hopes on my luxury development in Shanghai.
Well, if it does as well as your Dubai development, you'll be buying yourself a new Veyron.
Well, it's a very good car, a beautiful piece of engineering. One in Dubai, one in Shanghai, and one in Cork.
Do you not have your toupee, sir?
Well, I was talking to a couple of guys over the gardens this morning. They said I'm better off with the Dreadlock Holiday.
Yes, you're right. Your Dreadlock Holiday is a better horse over the soft ground than your toupee.
You know what I was going to ask you? Whatever happened to your idiot child?
Yes, doing very well. Since he won the St. Ledger here last year, I put him in the stud. He's earning a lot more money than my shares in BP, I can tell you.
Well, that's a difficult position. I actually meant your other idiot child.
Oh, he's just flunked his AS levels at Bradfield. Yes, and the worst comes to the worst. I've got him a job lined up on the cufflink counter at Aspre's.
And you won't get it because you can barely understand a word they're saying, but the name of the horses are really strange. So Harry would be basically walking with Paul, and he would say, "How's your syphilis?" And then Paul would start off on this, and it turns out your syphilis was the name of a horse, or whatever. So, but that's what the Irish really sound like, and they have a series of sketches called. These are the guys that do Izzy Aquare, and these are the guys. They've got a running sketch called The Surgeons, about these two brilliantly educated men who are they're just talking. It's so bloody good. It's so good. Okay, moving on here. Braden Higby, and then a Robert Line. Howdy from Idaho. Hey, howdy, Braden. I've recently been getting a string of jokes or memes about 9/11 on my internet feeds, the most recent being a novelty lighter featuring the two towers with a plane flying through them, and when activated, a flame coming out of the top of the first tower. During the 60s and 70s, was the Pearl Harbor attack turned into a punchline? If not, why has 9/11 been turned into a punchline? Is it just that millennials and Zoomers, my generation, have a hard time taking anything seriously? Apologies if this is on the political side. Feel free to skip it if that's the case. No, it's on the it's culturally based, entertainment based. I don't know if I'm going to get into hot water about this, but to be honest with you, in the case of 9/11, it's not too soon. you know, it doesn't. It's not something I would buy, but I'm not enraged by it the way I would have been enraged by it, you know, 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 25 years ago now. 25 years. That's just shocking. It's been 25 years in September. It'll be 25 years since 9/11. And you know, I'm one of those people, and I certainly am like this in real life. I have always been, I've always coped with real tragedy and sadness with dark humor. And that's just how I deal with it. I saw my friend, the living legend, Dick Rutan, about 40 minutes before he pulled the plug on himself, which is what steely-eyed missilemen do. He was getting so much oxygen that when he pulled the cannula out of his nose, it blew his hair up. And he was in there, and you know, and just being a man, just dealing with it like a man. And I was just so struck by this that I said something to the effect of, Dick, I just want you to know, you know, when you finally fly west, first thing I'll do tomorrow morning is check out Match.com to see if your wife is on there. And I'll send you a message if she is or something. And he just started laughing, because that's what I would want somebody to do for me, you know? And that this is really actually it. If you've ever seen Monty Python's funeral ceremony for Graham Chapman, and Cleese delivers like the eulogy, because Cleese and Chapman had come into Python together, and he basically just starts off by saying, you know, he's just the rottenest bastard I ever knew, and I think they did a live show where somebody brought, you know, the urn with Chapman's ashes in it on stage, and stumbles, and then the ashes just go flying everywhere. That's what I would like for me, you know. I really admire the ability to keep things like that light and funny. And some people call it gallows humor. I just find it. Infidel 42 was saying it's time to feel so sad, and Cleese apparently said, nonsense, to hell with a rotten bastard, I hope he fries. And then John Pershing says, yes, and they used a dustbuster to sweep him up. That's how I like to look at life and how I would like to be remembered, you know. I mean, it's not like it's the end of the world, right? To me, that's the value of courage. Courage is, I've talked about this a few times before, and I genuinely, honestly believe over the course of my life that courage is a teachable and learnable skill, that you can, if you're not courageous, that you can become courageous through study and mental preparation. I really genuinely believe it. And it's so much better to be courageous than not. You know, if you get yourself squared with the idea that you're not going to be here forever, and that if that turns out tomorrow, okay, you know, it's been an amazing life, and I've done amazing things, and I have other amazing things that I'd like to do and plan to do, but I don't fear it. I know a lot of people that do, and I like to think that, you know, come face to face with it, I would be able to deal with it in the same way that Dick Rutan did, because Dick was a genuinely fearless guy. He just flew in again and again and again into jungle canopy in Vietnam, and he flew around the world. He was courageous. He wasn't fearless. That's obviously, this is the old saw, but it's absolutely true. Courage isn't absence of fear. Courage is the ability to contain and control your fear and master it. And that's a much more noble and more difficult thing to do than simply not being afraid. So that's how I want to go. And I give myself. I train myself a lot. I think about this a lot. How would you deal with these things? When I first got that MRI and somebody said, no, there's all kinds of abnormalities, I started looking up, gliostomas and all those other things, and I just thought, okay, well, it turns out that it's like really bad news. Then okay. I'll tell you who else really impressed me. Really impressed me was Norm Macdonald. He gave a lot of hints, but nobody. I just woke up one day and found out that Norm Macdonald had died, and I didn't know he was sick. And I admire that just so much. And one of his last jokes as he was dying of was it colorectal cancer, I think. And he was I think it was within his last year, might have been within his last couple of months. It was his last stand-up routine, and he was talking about, I really miss the old days when you could just die. When you could just die, but now you have to fight a battle. You have to fight a battle with cancer, and then when you die, it's really a drag because you lost your battle. Who wants to feel good for you, you loser? You lost your battle with cancer, and then Norm says, but my understanding is, if I understand this correctly, when you die, your cancer dies, so that's not really losing the battle. I call that a draw. He's right, too. He's right. It was a draw. So, there you go. Last one, Robert Line, Time in the Colonies. Bill, you mentioned previously that a standardized Earth calendar would be useful for activities across human settled space, but the question still remains of the local application of time on each colonized world. It's not just useful, it's absolutely essential. For example, Earth time would be wildly out of sync with local conditions where the colony rotates every 6.3 hours, but circled the system primary every 11.5 days, and there are no moons to provide monthly cycles out. Yes, correct. I imagine that the settlers on that planet would have to come up with a new system, keeping the lowest scale units as time on Earth, but customizing each level up. For example, local hour might be 190 minutes long. How do we plan to tackle this challenge? Well, there's no question that if you have, let's not be so extreme. Let's say you're on Mars, and you have instead of a 24-hour day, you have something that's pushing 25 hours, if I remember correctly. But let's just say, for the sake of an argument, that it's a 26, 27-hour day. If you define noon as when the sun is at its highest point and midnight when the sun is at its furthest point below the horizon, then your hours are going to be longer, and you either have more hours or your hours are longer in length. So yes, I completely agree that local people will say it's 9 o'clock or it's 14 o'clock, one of those two things, but they will convert local time to the degree that it's convertible to their internal biorhythms, and they may end up sleeping longer or less time or whatever after they've been there for years and years and years. So there's no question. So yes, of course, it'd be based on human sleep-wake cycles, unless you had a planetary rotation of 60 hours or something. Nobody's going to sleep for 30. So each colony world will sort it out for themselves, and they will live on local time. But there has to be a coordinated universal time, as Trinity Waters said. And I just loved it when I used to listen to the radio. 14 hours, 22 minutes, coordinated universal time. There has to be, and all of those clocks, the dice lines obviously don't even begin to function without that, and so most people will just use local time. But any sort of official business on an interplanetary scale, any kind of interplanetary trade or interstellar trade is going to be based on coordinated universal time. And the same for the years. If you've got a planet with a 4-year orbit, it's still going to be 2073, 2074, 2075, and so on. I think that's. I know for a certain fact that the Earth clock is going to be standardized, and that everything in the entire universe will be set to that. And then local time will just be, be a quaint local custom. So yeah, I think you not only can have your cake and eat it too, you're going to kind of have to. So the locals will have their own seasons. The locals will have their own times and days and hours and months might consist if there's a big enough moon. We have a very, very big moon, Earth. The Earth-Moon system is a double planet, and it was long thought that we were uniquely a double planet, but it turns out that Pluto and Charon are actually closer in size to each other than Earth is to the moon, although they're both much, much, much smaller than Earth is. But we have an enormous moon, and the domination of the moon in our night skies is, I think, a large part of our rise to consciousness. To be honest with you, you often see alien skies with multiple moons and things like that. But I don't know. I think if you had 5 or 6 moons in the sky at the same time, it would somehow be a little less impressive. And that's another reason why, there's all of the unlikeliness of the Earth and all the different things about the moon. I've talked about the moon many times. It's protected us from asteroid impacts. Without tides from the moon, you don't have these littoral areas where creatures can become, amphibians. There's just 100 reasons why the moon is, if there was no moon, we wouldn't be here. But one of the things that I never thought about until the moon stabilizes the Earth's rotation, so the Earth doesn't tip over hundreds of thousands of years. But another thing just occurred to me about the unlikelihood of the moon. I mentioned that if you've seen an eclipse once, a solar eclipse, you will immediately start studying mathematics, because if you've seen one solar eclipse, you really want to see another one. But here's another thing that's just kind of miraculous. Now think about the distance to the moon. If the moon were much closer, it would be well, first of all, couldn't be much closer because it's so big. But if it were much closer, then you'd be essentially talking about an orbital mission. If the moon was much further away, I don't think you couldn't have gotten there with Apollo technology. It just seems like the moon is the perfect distance away to make it incredibly difficult but doable. And if it was much further, or even somewhat further away than that, then it just wouldn't be possible for starting technology. So if you're gonna have space flight and you're gonna be driven to manned space flight, then the moon is perfectly positioned to be difficult enough to make it really difficult, but not so difficult that it's impossible. That's just strange, man. Capuchinos, almost like a plan. Yeah, almost like a plan. Airtechie says that the moon is moving away from us, which is true. I want to say it's a couple of centimeters a year. So in real terms, about an inch, something like that. That's a doable escape rate, I think. So, anyway, that's it. That's it for the questions. So, and Air Techie, I'm sorry I haven't gotten to any of your emails. I've just been really underwater and just trying to dig myself back out. So instead of me staying here for another couple hours as I usually do, I believe I am going to go home and get a bite to eat and go to bed early and come in early and you know, kind of take it easy a little bit. Who's going to Spain in August for the total solar eclipse? My God, I want to go, but I just don't know how you'd escape the tourists. I am so bummed out. That missing that one a couple years ago or a year ago, whatever it was a knife in the heart for me that I don't know if I'll ever get over, honestly. That was just awful. Was it a year ago? It was during my birthday or day after my birthday. It was on the 8th, I think, so 2 days, day after my birthday. I felt we went to Sedona instead. Natasha and I were going to drive out there, and it looked like clouds, solid clouds, and we said, oh, it's 24? Wow. And so we said, no, it looks like it's going to be overcast. I'm talking to my friend Phil, who drove out there from North Carolina to Texas to get in the path of totality, and Natasha didn't want to drive 33 hours, and I didn't either, and it looked like, now it's socked in, and Phil sent me a photograph about 20 minutes before totality, and you could just barely see the sun through this solid cloud layer. And so we were sitting in there, Sedona, and I just checked the watch, and you didn't have to check the watch, it's close enough, you can see that, you know, it was dim. And I contacted him and said, hey man, you know, sorry you missed it. He said, Bill, it cleared 2 minutes before. The sky just cleared, and it was spectacular. And I just felt like I'd been kicked in the guts. That's as bad as I've felt since, somebody just mentioned it, since missing Apollo 17 launch, because I didn't have a radio, and they delayed the launch by, I don't know what it was, let's say it was 2 hours, and I went to bed 1 hour and 45 minutes afterwards. Eric says you better go, otherwise you owe yourself not to miss this, or you fail your last real haunt for eternity. Fortunately, there will be other eclipses. My problem with going to Spain is that just the tourist rush. I would rather be in the middle of nowhere between Madrid and Barcelona. There'd be a lot of people there. I kind of would like to do like an Antarctica eclipse or something, you know, where it's like not every single, you know, Tomas, Ricardo, and Geraldo are going to this thing. There will be other eclipses. I'm going to check them. In fact, I'm going to check the list of upcoming total solar eclipses and see which one looks succulent and tasty. And if it's, you know, if there's none there, then I'll just maybe we'll go to Spain. Is it August? It's happening so fast. Jeez, August. Okay. Anyway, let's wrap it up here. This show is made possible by the members of BillWhittle.com and especially by our Stratosphere crew, who not only keeps the light on, but Greenland. Yes. Oh, Infidel says it goes through Greenland. See, that's where I'd rather be. I'd rather be in Greenland, or Freeland, as somebody called it. Anyway, as you know, the show's made possible by members of BillWhittle.com. We're very, very grateful for your support, and for all of the other ones, all of the rest of you out there who are supporting us and doing all of that stuff too. So it's just been wonderful, and I'm so excited. I just come into work every morning. It's like, I get to do something cool again and see some cool movies that I made, or that the elves made while I was sleeping. So yeah, we'll see. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you guys here on Thursday for your very own Stratosphere Lounge. You're there somewhere. I know you are. There you go. See ya.